Hello and welcome to this short video on morality. Today this video is divided into two sections. First of all, I will play a short YouTube video by Reasonable Faith by William Lane Craig, summarizing the key concepts of morality. After that, I will meet with you again just to highlight some key points and to draw some conclusions from that video. So here's the video and enjoy, and I'll see you straight after that video.
Can you be good without God? Let's find out. Absolutely astounding. There you have it. Undeniable proof that you can be good without believing in God. But wait, the question isn't, can you be good without believing in God? The question is, can you be good without God? See, here's the problem. If there is no God, what basis remains for objective good or bad, right or wrong? If God does not exist, objective moral values do not exist. And here's why. Without some objective reference point, we have no way of saying that something is really up or down. God's nature provides an objective reference point for moral values. It's the standard against which all actions and decisions are measured. But if there's no God, there's no objective reference point. All we're left with is one person's viewpoint, which is no more valid than anyone else's viewpoint. This kind of morality is subjective, not objective. It's like a preference for strawberry ice cream. The preference is in the subject, not the object. So it doesn't apply to other people. In the same way, subjective morality applies only to the subject. It's not valid or binding for anyone else. So, in a world without God, there can be no evil and no good, nothing but blind, pitiless indifference. God has expressed His moral nature to us as commands. These provide the basis for moral duties. For example, God's essential attribute of love is expressed in His command to love your neighbor as yourself. This command provides a foundation upon which we can affirm the objective goodness of generosity, self-sacrifice, and equality. And we can condemn as objectively evil greed, abuse, and discrimination. This raises a problem. Is something good just because God wills it, or does God will something because it is good? The answer is neither one. Rather, God wills something because He is good. God is the standard of moral values, just as a live musical performance is the standard for a high-fidelity recording.
Without your love.
The more a recording sounds like the original, the better it is. Likewise, the more closely a moral action conforms to God's nature, the better it is. But if atheism is true, there is no ultimate standard. So there can be no moral obligations or duties. Who or what lays such duties upon us? No one. Remember, for the atheist, humans are just accidents of nature, highly evolved animals. But animals have no moral obligations to one another. When a cat kills a mouse, it hasn't done anything morally wrong. The cat's just being a cat. If God doesn't exist, we should view human behavior in the same way. No action should be considered morally right or wrong. But the problem is, good and bad, right and wrong, do exist. Just as our sense experience convinces us that the physical world is objectively real, our moral experience convinces us that moral values are objectively real. Every time you say, "Hey, that's not fair, that's wrong, that's an injustice," you affirm your belief in the existence of objective morals. We're well aware that child abuse, racial discrimination, and terrorism are wrong for everybody, always. Is this just a personal preference or opinion? No. The man who says that it is morally acceptable to rape little children is just as mistaken as the man who says 2 + 2 = 5. What all this means is a moral argument for the existence of God. If God does not exist, objective moral values and duties do not exist. But objective moral values and duties do exist. Therefore, God exists. Atheism fails to provide a foundation for the moral reality every one of us experiences every day. In fact, the existence of objective morality points us directly to the existence of God.
Welcome back. I hope you've enjoyed this short video. Now, I just want to highlight a few important points. The video clearly demonstrates the reality of the moral law. The moral law is real and it exists and it is inside each one of us. How do we know that this is true? Well, usually when we've done something wrong, we do feel guilty about it. We don't feel the same way after doing a good or kind act. But if I've been angry or rude to someone, I usually feel guilty about it. The other thing is our reactions also help us to discover the reality of the moral law. If I've been treated unfairly or unjustly, I do get angry about it because I believe in justice. A lot of people, especially sometimes atheists, believe in subjective morality, or what we call moral relativism. So what's right for you may not necessarily be right for me. Now, this reminds me of a very interesting story which I read in a very good book called I Don't Have Enough Faith to Be an Atheist. And I suggest if you can get that book and read it, it's a very easy to read book. Now, in that story, it talks about an ethics professor who gave his students a term paper to write. He didn't specify what topic, and he said you could write about anything you like. So an atheist student wrote a very good paper about moral relativism or subjective morality. He said that morality is not objective. What's right for you is not necessarily right for me. It's a matter of taste or opinion. A bit like what we saw in the video. So I like strawberry ice cream, you like chocolate ice cream. And there is no real right or wrong. The next day he was handed in his paper, and he had given that paper, he wrote it quite neatly, he fulfilled all the required criteria and gave it in a blue folder. Next day the professor gave it back to him and he had an F. The reason being, I don't like blue. That student got very, very angry and he went and spoke to the professor. That's not fair. Why did you give me an F? I followed everything you asked for. I handed it in on time and I've got the right word count. He said, remind me again. He said, well, I wrote about relativism. He said, oh yes, you don't believe in justice. You think it's a matter of taste or opinion. Well, I don't like blue. That's my opinion. Therefore, you get an F. And suddenly the penny dropped for that student and he realized that he actually did believe in right and wrong and justice. And even though he didn't think he did, but when it happened to him and he was the victim of injustice, he realized that he did really believe in that. So this is a key point, that our reactions help us to understand that objective morality is real, it's undeniable. And even if people don't realize it, when they are the victims of abuse, maltreatment, or injustice, they get angry and they get upset because they believe they've been wrongly treated. Therefore, they believe in moral, objective morality. The second point I want to make is that without objective morality, there is no way of knowing justice from injustice. A lot of us are aware that we live in a cruel world where there is a lot of injustice around us. But where did we get this idea from? How do we know this? You can't call a crooked line crooked unless you have some idea of what a straight line looks like. What are we comparing this world to? It was this realization that led C.S. Lewis to Christianity. C.S. Lewis was an atheist and he was one of the great thinkers of our time. And this realization of evil and injustice led him to believe in a moral law and a moral lawgiver. The reason we are able to call this evil evil and that we know there is injustice is because we have a moral law given to us by a moral lawgiver that is imprinted inside our hearts. So, to summarize what we've said so far, we clearly know now that the moral law is real. Objective morality does exist, and it is ingrained inside of us. How do we know this? It's from our reactions. We feel guilty when we break the moral law. So this leads to the next question: who or what put that law inside me? A moral law implies a mind behind it, a moral lawgiver. Now, what can we know about this moral lawgiver? We can know that he is intensely interested in good conduct, unselfishness, kindness, and good behavior. That moral lawgiver, these attributes point to the Christian God. It fits with the Christian worldview of a God who is a personal God who is interested in good conduct. Christianity not only offers an explanation for the moral law, but it also offers us a solution. Christianity puts us right with God, so even if we do break that moral law, Christianity offers us an answer. Thank you.